Okay, now I'm going to share the screen. And I have a quick introduction for Leah. So let's dive right in. So Leah got her undergraduate degree from Temple in landscape architecture. She's currently a grad student at Colorado State in natural resource stewardship. Her relevant work started at the Lewis Ginter Botanical Garden, where she was a horticulturalist in Richmond. She was responsible for the woodland gardens there. She did annual displays for them. She did special exhibits and education. Her next job was as a horticulturalist for the city of Richmond, where she learned to drive the big rigs. And she currently is a regulatory specialist for RES in Richmond. Leah has pets, a normal pet, a cat, and then the abnormal pets, she has beetles. And to my horror, she has spiders, one of which got loose in her house. You can ask her about that later. She also has lots of side gigs. She's a fly fisher woman. She's a hiker and backpacker, a rock climber, a photographer, an artist, and her side interest is bugs, bugs, bugs. And that's what we're going to talk, she's going to talk to you about today. So she recorded her presentation. I'm going to turn that on. Hang on a sec. And then questions following. Here goes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Purdy, and I'm here to talk to you today about habitat creation for native beneficial insects. Today, I'm going to be discussing why insects matter and things you can do to help them in your own home garden. If the bee disappeared off the face of the earth, man would only have 4 years left to live. This was allegedly Albert Einstein, and although the quote's been misappropriated, it speaks to a good point. This is most often talked about in terms of honeybees, but our real loss would be in terms of native pollinators who contribute a huge amount of ecological services for free to our economy. It has been estimated that the economic services provided by insects round out to be almost $33 trillion globally every year. These economic services include agricultural services. About a third of our food supply is dependent on pollinators, especially fruits and vegetables. Each year, pollinators affect $577 billion worth of crops globally. This includes about $235 billion in the US alone. Insects are also a major factor of biological pest control, which has been valued to be around $5.4 billion worth of services a year in the United States. Another service we don't often think about, but is incredibly important, is waste removal. Beetles and termites are essential at cleaning up fecal matter, such as this dung beetle here rolling some dung into a ball. The removal and burying of waste from cattle keeps pasture lands clean and pests down. This is also really important for our waterways that surround cattle lands. Insects also break down and dispose of dead plant and animal material that would otherwise pile up. Not only are insects important for agricultural food resources, but they're also the base resource for many other species. Birds, reptiles, rodents, and many other species use them as the base of the food web just above plants. 98% of bird species rely on insects as a food source in North America. This is especially true of songbirds who feed their young insects. Flies and other insects are a major food source for freshwater fish, contributing to a $28 billion a year fishing industry. Anybody who fly fishes understands how important it is, how important insects are as a food source for fish. Insects are also an incredibly important food source for many people. About 1,500 edible insect species are consumed by 3,000 different ethnic groups in 113 countries. Insects provide protein that is 300-fold more efficient than the meat from cattle. And some people say it might be a food source of the future. Insects play a role in medical ingenuity as well. Blowfly maggots are still used to clean wounds as they eat the dead flesh around wounds, but they leave living tissue. They're far less invasive than surgery that way. Leeches are still used to keep blood pressure flowing to small extremities like fingers after they've been accidentally severed. I remember as a child, I heard of a friend's dad who lost a finger in a factory accident, and they used leeches to keep the blood flowing until it could be reattached. Insects are also incredibly important in the pharmaceutical industry. For example, important pharmaceutical compounds come from the blister beetle that are used as a wart remover. Alpharon, which comes from blowfly larvae, is a powerful antimicrobial compound, and some wasps are being tested to find promising anti-cancer compounds as well. Insects have also found their way into industry and technology. Silkworms are still the only way to make commercially viable silk fabrics. Red dye, found in many of our foods and makeups, it comes from a scale insect. It provides color to sausage and artificial crab. Also used in pink pastries, many yogurts, and juices. It's common in lipstick, and it's an important source, an important cash crop for many people living in rural Central and South America. It's also used in the coloring of Campari for anyone who enjoys a nice Campari and soda. Researchers are trying to find ways to use spider silk to make material to create new body armor for the military. It will be far tougher, lighter, and cooler than anything that is currently available on the market. They're also using spider silk to try and create windows that no longer allow birds to fly into them and perish. Particularly large office buildings or skyscrapers are finding ways to use spider silk because it reflects UV light that birds can see, but we can't. They're trying to put this on the windows to help protect birds, which is important because almost 100 million birds or more die every year from impacts with glass windows. So as we can see, insects are really important to our world, not just the ecology of the world, but also to our economy. So insect decline is a major threat to us all, except for maybe your paint job. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but when I was little and we'd be driving down the highway, I definitely noticed a lot of bug splatter on my parents' windshields. And now when I drive down the road, I am actually kind of surprised when I hit a bug. I think that just goes to show you how far populations have really declined, is that my car windshield isn't covered anymore, and I'm guessing for the most part yours isn't either. So this is a graph I found on the internet that just talks a little bit about global insect population decline. 41% of total global insect species have seen a decline over the past decade. This has been really apparent in insects that rely on water for part of their life cycle, such as caddisflies, mayflies, dragonflies, stoneflies. But we're also seeing really heavy declines in butterflies and beetles and bees. Butterflies, beetles, and bees are all important pollinator species. Here's another graph from the internet depicting insect population declines. Here we can see Lepidoptera, or butterflies and moths, broken out from all other invertebrate species. There's been a lot of concern of butterfly population decline over the years, but as you can see, it's not nearly as devastating as the decline of all other invertebrate species. This is a real problem of concern. Puerto Rico, where there was recently done a survey, revealed that there was a 98% fall in ground insects over 35 years. And this is going to become important when you think about that ground insects tend to be a lot of those decomposing species that reduce waste that we talk about. There's also ground insects that pollinate. And when you consider Another interesting fact is that when you consider 80% of biomass of insects has disappeared in roughly 25 to 30 years, I mean, that's really concerning. So we really need to consider why insect populations are declining. So what is causing insect decline? Well, there's really a number of factors which we'll look at here, but habitat destruction and fragmentation are certainly one of them. Doug Tallamy, an entomologist who's written a number of really excellent books on insects and native plants and how you can support them, I suggest you check them out, stated that there's a 1-to-1 correspondence of habitat size destroyed to the number of species that survive. So if we're looking at a plot of land and we end up developing half of it, we're going to lose half of the species that originally lived on that plot of land. That's a lot of species to lose as we consider development. Hand in hand with habitat destruction and fragmentation is urbanization. The amount of commercial and residential development across this country is pretty massive. There are 69 million acres of land that are considered urban or suburban. Only 1% of the land in Pennsylvania is considered wild. And sterile lawns cover about 62,500 square miles. So why don't we take a look at this map as we consider those numbers. This is some statistics for land use in the lower 48 states. 53 to 56% of the land is considered urban or suburban. There's not a lot of habitat there for insects, especially considering how lawns are pretty sterile and do almost nothing for our insect populations. 41% is agriculture and 3 to 5% is undisturbed. That really means that at maximum, our country has about 5% ideal habitat for insect species. After looking at that map, another thing that we need to talk about is light pollution. Light pollution is a huge issue for nocturnal insect species, especially when we're talking about large silk moths and fireflies. Nobody knows exactly why streetlights and house lights attract insects, but as we've all seen moths flying around our house lights, we know they do. There's one theory that insects navigate by maintaining a constant angular relationship to bright celestial bodies. Celestial bodies are so far away that their orientation barely changes as the moth flies straight. But because streetlights are so close, the orientation changes very quickly and it can disorient them, leading them to just circle and circle the light all night. Another theory is that they confuse artificial lights for the morning sun. In the morning, moths fly up towards the sun and look down to find suitable camouflage and hiding spots. At night, they can't see a good hiding spot, so they fly directly into the light again and again, looking for one. So instead of looking for a food source or a mate, they end up getting distracted by the light for whatever reason, and they'll spend the night flying around it. This leaves them as really excellent prey for bats, but they also can die of exhaustion from flying around without fulfilling their purpose. The best way to prevent this is just to turn off the lights outside your house when you're not using them. I know that not everyone thinks that's practical, so another option is to use colored lights as a compromise. Red lights in particular, as they are less visible to most insect species over long distances. I know that this isn't a very popular idea, but it's something to consider when we talk about how we can improve our households and landscapes to better suit insects. So again, I just wanted to take a quick second to look at this map and to really kind of appreciate what kind of light pollution we're seeing in this country and how it can be so detrimental to our native insect populations. Poor agricultural practices are another huge reason for insect population decline. While farming and ranching may leave land looking green, there's very little food or nesting resources for insects, especially when the land is laden with pesticide. Field margins, where you might see a few trees or shrubs in road banks, ditches, streams, all of these field margins, are area that could potentially be suitable habitat, but they're often not because of pesticide drift from these crop fields. Sometimes some scientists believe that poor agricultural practices can be one of the main reasons for insect population decline. Along with poor agricultural practices is heavy pesticide usage. Neonicotinoids are particularly damaging as they're a broad spectrum pesticide that just kills everything. They sterilize the soil, and kill all the grubs inside. They also remain in the plant because they're systemic. They also remain in the plant for long periods of time. So when the flower blooms, there's still chemical in there, and that can affect any kind of insect that feeds on the pollen or goes to pollinate it. Those toxins remain in there for quite a while. Neonicotinoids like this affect bees heavily. They can be absorbed through the exoskeleton, drank through the nectar, or eaten in the pollen. If they're sprayed with the pesticide, they die pretty quickly, but if it's ingested, they die pretty slowly. So it's important to remember that if you're treating your plants, the things that you're treating with them with will affect the insects around your yard. And while pesticides are heavily used in agricultural areas, you might be interested to know that pesticides applied from homeowners actually are some of the highest reasons for pesticide pollution. That's because while agricultural areas, people have to be trained and they know that pesticides cost them a lot of money, so they use as little product as possible to get the desired result. Homeowners tend not to have a license or training and little education on it. They tend to use way more pesticides than necessary to receive their desired effect. They tend to kill everything off in their yard, such as using a mosquito squad to kill mosquitoes. Will also kill all of the other insects in your yard. It's a broad spectrum pesticide, so it's kind of an indiscriminate killer. So before you start treating your yard with pesticides, you should really look into proper usage and if you really need to use the product. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about aliens versus predators. Oops, I'm sorry. I meant to say aliens versus natives. So what is a native plant? Basically, it's any indigenous, terrestrial, or aquatic plant species that evolved naturally in an ecosystem. It's a plant that lives or grows naturally in a particular region without direct or indirect human intervention. So basically, it's the plants that were here before European settlers came to the United States. So then, what's an alien plant? Well, alien plants are plants that didn't evolve in a certain region. They're plants that were most often brought over for ornamental value. Some of them were brought over accidentally as well. Some of these plants became invasive. Invasive plants are non-native or alien to an ecosystem and whose introduction caused or is likely to cause economic or environmental harm to human health. So not every alien plant is invasive, but pretty much every invasive plant is alien. So why did these alien and invasive plants mean anything for insect population decline? Well, these plants aren't good for insects. Most insects are only able to eat specific kinds of plants that they evolved with. These are specialist insects. Now, there are some generalist insects that can eat anything, but for the most part, that's really a small portion of the insect population. So, because alien plants contain different chemicals that were not digestible by native insects, these plants provide little or no value. And let's be honest, that's why they're so popular in so many home landscapes. People like them because they don't get chewed on by insects. But if we want to create healthy native habitats and help insect populations, which are so vital to us, increase, we're going to need to make some compromises on that. All right, last but not least, contributing to insect population decline is climate change. As climate change occurs, life cycles of plants and animals can get thrown off, and that's especially bad for migrating insects who arrive at a place when their host plant is not in a point of its life cycle where it can sustain that particular insect. Climate destabilization is another issue. As one place gets hotter and drier, another might get wetter, and there's going to be more varied extremes in temperatures and storms. This can cause seasonal and geographic shifts that pollinators and other insects just can't sync up with. We have seen some butterflies shifting range, but that's not possible for all insects, as some of them just can't travel as far as others. Any foolish boy can stamp on a beetle, but all the professors in the world cannot make one. So we need to consider that as our populations are declining, we're not going to be able to bring them all back. So before we let that happen, what can we do to help? Your backyard is a great place to start in the fight against insect population decline. So from here on out, we're going to talk a little bit about habitat creation and habitat maintenance. I know this might not be the ideal time to talk about winterizing your garden for insects, since the winter's almost over, but that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with one of my favorite winterizing tips for your garden, and one that I think is incredibly easy. Leave your leaves. Leaf litter provides a great winter habitat for insects. It prevents desiccation and is a main habitat for predatory arthropods. Leaves are a free mulch, they're free fertilizer, free weed control, and a free soil amendment. Leaves soak up rainwater and then slowly release the moisture back into the soil, so they keep your plants, soils, and insects hydrated. When fall rolls around, instead of bagging up your leaves and throwing them out in a landfill or just sticking them on the sidewalk for the city to take them and turn them into free mulch and fertilizer, you should do it yourself. You can put your leaves in a pile in your lawn and chop them up with your lawnmower and leave some of that on your lawn. You can also rake a bunch of them into your flower beds. Because they're such a great mulch and fertilizer, and they keep down weeds, I found leaves to be like the perfect free amendment for my soils. One thing to consider is not using your leaf blower as you do this. While it might make cleaning up your leaves a little easier, gardening equipment contributes to 5% of our country's air pollution. A study by the EPA found that operating a gas-powered lawnmower produces as much smog and emissions as 11 cars do for a similar amount of time. Leaf blowers were also found to kill a lot of insects in a study done in Germany. So my suggestion is to don't blow it and get a nice bit of exercise and break up those leaves that you want to put into your flower beds. A lot of people cut down their stems and grasses in the winter. This is bad because they provide great habitat for solitary native bees. Solitary native bees like to lay their eggs to overwinter in hollow stems and grasses. So if you do want to cut them back, leave about 12 inches of grasses left, or 15 as the sign states in this photo. By leaving the lower halves of the grasses, you provide that habitat that's so important for our native solitary bees. These bees don't sting and don't bite, so you don't need to worry about having a bunch of aggressive bees in your yard come spring when they hatch. It's easy to just leave those plant stems up, because by the time the new growth comes, they'll fall down and start to decay. When considering creating habitat for native insects, insect hotel can be a great way to go. So here are your keys to getting it right. When building an insect hotel, you really want to consider building it for one individual species or type of species. Insects don't really want to live in these mass conglomerates of different insects. So for this, we're going to consider the solitary bee. The solitary bee is 3 times more effective at pollinating than a honeybee. They also have felt incredible population decline. 50% of the populations of our native bees in the Midwest are gone. And some species of native bumblebees are down 96%. So the best thing we can do to promote these species is avoid pesticides, but we can also create a space for them to breed. There are a lot of different solitary bee species in the United States, almost 4,000 types. And, oh, I'm sorry, there's almost 4,000 types of bees in the United States, but 90% of those are solitary bees. About 70% live in the ground. They need bare soil with sparse vegetation that's loose, sandy, and well drained for them to be able to build their homes. So consider that when you have some empty spaces in your yard, giving them places to breed. But when we're talking about insect hotels, we're talking about cavity bees. That's about 30% of solitary bee species. And these can be bees that use existing holes, like mason bees, who really like old woodpecker holes or old beetle holes in dead trees. But there's also bees who will drill their own holes, such as carpenter bees. So let's take a look at the homes we can build for them. So the good, the bad, and the ugly of insect hotels. So these are a couple of bad examples of insect hotels. They're trying to populate too many species in there, and they're not using materials that are really going to work. So when you see huge insect hotels or insect hotels that are really trying to promote a number of different insects living together, some of which are probably predatory of the others, that's not exactly the way we want to go. This is a far better example of a good solitary bee habitat. So it's made of naturally untreated wood or bamboo. You don't want to use plastic. There's no chemical varnish or wood stain. The structures have to be solid. And you're going to place some different sized tubes in there for the bees to lay their eggs in. And these tubes can range in size from 5/64 of an inch to about 13-30 seconds. All of the tubes and tunnels need to be smooth and splinter free. You don't want to be impaling any bees in there. And the roof needs small eaves to help keep the water out. Where you place these bee hotels is important. They need full sun. So you want to look for something that's southeast or south facing. And they should be at least 3 feet off the ground. If you leave them lower, it can lead them to being invaded by ants relatively easily. You don't want any vegetation blocking the entrance or shading the box. It needs to be sturdy. They don't want any swaying in there. And potentially, you can move it inside to a dry, cool, unheated garage or shed in the winter, although that's not necessary. I do want to warn you that if it gets too hot inside, the insects will emerge at the wrong time of year. And then they're not going to have food, and they're going to be all over your house. So take that as you will when you consider moving your insect habitat in the winter. Another flaw in the human character is that everyone wants to build and nobody wants to do maintenance. Kurt Vonnegut, Hocus Pocus. Hotel maintenance is important. You want to inspect your hotels at the end of each summer and remove any and clean of the dead cells. Those dead cells are the tubes that have been used that previous summer and don't have new eggs in them. You're going to replace the material every few years. This is really important because it helps to prevent mold buildup and mites and parasites, which can eventually infest your hotel if maintenance isn't done. So what can you do to help insects? Well, you can plant natives. The natives that we're going to discuss in the following slides are all great host plants. They support at least a few species of Lepidoptera, butterflies, and moths, which is what we're going to focus on because that's what people tend to be most concerned about. But these species will also help a number of other native insects. So when we're talking about plants, where you plant is just as important as what you plant. I've got a couple of plants coming up here that are really great for insect habitat, but you need to consider the conditions that you have at your house. Things to consider are soil type. You can have a soil analysis done if you're not sure. The amount of sun and shade you have. Also, the amount of rain that site receives or potential drainage, water retention. Native trees is a great place to start. All these trees support a number of Lepidoptera species, but oaks support the most by far, supporting over 534 different species of butterflies and moths, cherries, birch, maple, pines, hickories, and all the rest that are listed support species as well. If you are planning on planting a new tree, consider planting a native, and these are some great species to look at to start. Since we're starting to run out of time here, I'll just run through these quickly without going into each individual species, but there are a lot of great native shrubs that you can use in your yard that support insects. Rhododendrons and native azaleas are able to do that, as well as blueberries, Carolina rose, spice bush, some willow species, blackberries, buttonbush, which is one of my favorites, and false indigo. Valuable native forbs, otherwise known as herbaceous flowering plants, other than grasses, include black-eyed Susans, bee balms, verbena, goldenrods, ironweed, joe pyeweed, violets, milkweed, which is especially important as it is the host plant for monarch butterflies, and mountain mint are great. Mountain mint is the only species listed here that is not a host species. However, it provides nectar for a prolific amount of different insects. And if you want to see what kind of native pollinators you have in your garden, mountain mint is the perfect place to find them. And then lastly, there are some important valuable native grasses that you can plant in your yard as well. These are not turf replacements. These tend to be kind of tall, but mixed in with those forbs, they can have an incredible effect and create a beautiful landscape. So these include switchgrasses, little blue stem, which happens to be my all-time favorite grass, big blue stem, bottlebush grass, and purple tops. Okay, so now that we've gone through this, I'm sure you're all ready and raring to go, want to rip everything out of your yard and just plant it all with natives. And I totally understand. I want to do the same thing. But before you start that, here's a couple of simple, easy steps to take that are maybe a little more practical for you in ways of making your yard more insect and wildlife friendly. If you have an existing plant that dies, replace it with a native. You can create small new garden beds or enlarge existing ones and plant natives in there. You can also remove sections of non-native plants and replace them with native plants as you have the time and money. And when you plant these, you probably want to plant them a little more heavily, like dense, than you would a traditional garden. You can also just start to lessen your lawn space. And if you're so inclined, there are some really great no-mow native planting alternatives for lawns. So you can have some low lawn type area without having to have that sterile lawn environment. So I thank you all so much for listening to this presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have right now. So thank you.
Thanks, Leah. I'll start off with the questions. Other folks, if you want to raise your hands, we'll call on you. As you suggested, I left leaves in my garden over the winter. And it was fine in the winter because who looks at the garden in the winter, but it's spring now and I'm getting anxious to clean up the garden. So when can I start cleaning it up?
I mean, I think one of the, I don't know how to say this to my mom. I think that like part of the problem with our super sterile landscapes is that everyone says, look at that, that looks messy. You know, you leave, the whole benefit of leaving the leaves out is, yeah, it's good for insects, but I mean, it's also going to be a great weed control, and kind of the plants you want will pop through them, and the tiny crummy weeds that you don't tend to get smothered out. So I mean, personally, I would just leave them down as a mulch to make them look a little nicer. You can rake them up, kind of mulch them with your lawnmower and then spread them back out. And that way they look more like a stereotypical mulch. But I would wait till it gets significantly warmer before raking up any leaves. However, when you are raking them up, you're definitely going to be picking up bugs and food sources and habitat with them. Just consider that, if that answers that question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other Mary?
Yeah,
Oh.
I have a question. Leah, in all the probably scientific associations or organizations you probably have access to, what kind of educational programs are they looking at things to do to educate the population about insects and a lot of the things that you talked about today?
So the Xerxes Society is really big into that, and they're a primarily entomology-based organization. I know a couple other organizations down here in Richmond are really pushing for sustainable habitats, such as the Capital Trees Initiative. It was something I was really pushing at Lewis Skinner while I was there. But it's something that people don't really consider heavily. I think most people find bugs kind of gross, but one of the things I didn't get to talk about too much in that presentation is that bugs are an incredibly important food source for birds, and our songbird populations have really started to decline as our insect populations have. So I think it's something that we'll start to see more people talk about in like the Audubon Society and other bird-centric organizations, because it's so important for the species that they love. But I mean, Doug Tallamy, who a lot of this research that I talked about came from, has written a number of books, and he is doing a lot of speaking tours. His events tend to be pretty well attended. Native plant societies are kind of picking up on this as well. But yeah, it's not, it's not something you hear an incredible amount about, especially outside of, the plight of the monarch. So.
Yeah. Have some of these organizations created like learning packets for the schools? I mean, if you're teaching science, this would be a great learning tool, to add to your curriculum.
I'm not really sure. I don't know, to be honest, but it would be a great learning tool. I think it's really important for people to hear about it.
Okay, thanks.
Kathy, you have a question?
Well,
Kathy?
yeah, sorry, I was having trouble with my mouse getting to my, yeah, in terms of local people, Karen Campbell has given several lectures on insects and pollinators at the Audubon Society, and there's been a lot of information out about the reduction of the number of pollinators and the impact that has on our food supply, especially as something we should be considering. But she's a local resource.
Awesome.
Thanks. Barb Conley?
Yes, thank you, Leah, for saying, talking about red lights. We have a neighbor that has red lights in the front of their house, and I just thought they were really into Halloween. I could not figure it out. So now I know not to complain about the red lights. But a question, are there special lights that you would replace instead of your typical white lights that attract insects? Thanks.
I mean, so I think they're just basically stereotypical red lights. And yeah, they don't necessarily look the most attractive. And so Yeah, I've never heard of like a light specifically that you should use, other than just a red light bulb that you can buy, yeah, at the Halloween store. But I think along with that, education goes a long way. So they look weird if you don't know what they're there for, but the more people are kind of aware, I think the more these things become acceptable and not such a strange thing to have.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
And Bartholomew.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I've reached the point in life where I can't take care of my garden entirely by myself. I do the best I can, but I have a service that cuts the grass and does a lot of the garden work too. They've already raked all the leaves out. I didn't want them to do it this early, and I really had to argue with them over the last few years to keep the leaves in place where they had blown around in the fall. Should I be making more of a noise about not raking them out so early in the spring?
I mean, I think just based on the fact that they are your client and you pay them, you absolutely should be getting what you're asking and you're paying for. And I think that you can say like, hey, there's a reason behind it and why I want it. But yeah, I mean, I would leave them later. You definitely want to wait. So insects kind of hatch or emerge based on this thing called degree days. And it's different for every insect, but it's kind of a formula based on how hot it is for what amount of time. So if it's really hot, they emerge sooner over a short period of time, or if it's colder, they emerge longer. So it kind of depends on the weather in the insect. But I think just based on the fact that you pay them for a service, they should be listening to what it is you're asking them to do.
Candace has a question. You're on mute, Candace.
You're on mute. I wasn't able to hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
Very quickly, I have mason bees that rather than seeking out a hotel have sought out my house. And there's a hole that's near my second floor window on the patio side. So through all the summer, they were coming and going. And I called the Penn State Extension to find out what should I do.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to do. So in the interim, they're in there. I don't know if they'll hatch out, if a whole new colony will come out come spring. But I have a hotel that I bought, so I don't know whether I should sort of put it out somewhere for them to see. When the weather gets warm, they come into my bedroom. As you said, they're non-aggressive. I mean, I can kind of escort them out the window, but
Yeah.
Come spring, I don't know how many will be there or whether they die out. Or any suggestions?
So I believe with mason bees, it's a new batch every year, so that the old females will die out. I mean, I do think that putting that bee hotel out and giving them some great access to that is a good idea. I would just kind of watch the hole, and once you see them starting to come back in, I would try to maybe plug it up.
Well, I was wondering, when should I plug it? Like now? Like
No, because I mean, if you want to let who's ever in there emerge, I think I can look up and get back to you about what their emergent time frame is. But I would give them a chance to emerge and then kind of fill up the hole with putty or goo or something they're probably not going to be that interested in eating through.
Okay, and I just want to add, my neighbors across the street who are new, who have a organic flower thing that they're going to be doing, they have these red lights that are more of an amber that they have around their pond and the property. And it's very, I'm assuming, I haven't had a chance to talk to them about it yet, but I think it's their alternative to bright lights. And
oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's not red, it's like a nice amber color at night. So anyway, saying I think that there's things out there now that I'm certainly going to check out, because it's very nice to see and works.
Awesome.
We'll take
Fantastic.
one more question from Molly, and then I'll turn it back over to Mary. But I just want to mention that Rochelle put in the chat about the Edge of the Woods, which is a nursery that sells only natives. It's a great place to look for natives. So Molly?
Yeah, mine was going to be more of a comment, Leah. I noticed the trees that are the bushes that you were recommending, all sounding wonderful. Rhododendron, blueberry. We haven't had much luck with the blueberry and rhododendron. The deer love it. You know, we've not planted any, but I know that they go after rhododendron. So unfortunately, we're sharing some of our plants with the deer also.
I mean, that is kind of the conundrum. There's definitely a really heavy overpopulation of deer in this country. And their main food source was also native plants, although deer are more broad spectrum and can really eat a lot, almost everything. But yeah, I mean, sometimes with that, you can put deer fencing around things. I know it doesn't look as good. You can also get sprays that smell like mint to put on things because deer really hate mint. But yeah, that's I don't know. I don't have a great, like there's no real answer to the deer overpopulation issue.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I do use one of those stinky sprays. And if you put it on early enough, it helps until eventually the deer get the idea that there's something good there, but it does protect it for a while. But you have to be vigilant about going out periodically to spray.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
anyway.
especially after rains, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, Leah, thank you for presenting to us today. We really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leah. I certainly gave me a lot to think about when I start planting, you know, the flowers I choose and replacing things that may have died. A lot to think about. Very interesting.
Well, I'm glad.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Leah.
Yeah, thank you all very
Yes.
much.
Get your mom down
Yes,
here to
great
Richmond.
job.
That's where I am.
Yeah.
Great job. I think you made your mom very proud today.
All right. Well, thank you all. You have a wonderful day.
Okay.
Okay, you too. Thanks again, Leah. Great presentation.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, just to keep moving things along, who we have with us today is the Deputy Chief Clerk of Voting Services in Lehigh County, Diane Gordian. And she has some information to let us know what's going on in the county and what kind of programs they have planned. So Diane, if you're ready, we welcome you and we're anxious to hear all your exciting news.
Yes, hi there, everyone. I apologize. My internet has been crazy, so I need to make sure. Can you guys hear me? See me?
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right. So thank you so much for having me here. I am here to give you guys some information on what's happening in this exciting world of elections. I'm sure you guys have been hearing a lot of things, and I just want to set some things straight. Give you guys information that you all need. Now, I know I have met a few of you before, that whoever I have not met, hello, nice to meet you all. For those that knew Terry Harkins, I am the one that took over her position. I took over October of 2020. I know, in the middle of all the madness, but I survived and now I'm here. So I am not alone. With me, I have one of my staff members here, Alexandra. I think she was on the line. I think she's on now. I want her to just pop in and say hello. Alex, are you there?
Hi guys.
Hi, Alex.
I was trying to
Welcome.
get on. Sorry.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
see
Thank
your name.
you.
I would have introduced you as well, but thanks for being on the presentation as well.
No worries. We got to catch the ending of the bugs and the trees and everything. It was actually interesting. But yes, thank you for having us.
Sure.
So Alex, So Alex is our alternate language coordinator. She actually staffs and trains all of the Spanish bilingual interpreters. And she is also our community outreach liaison. So if you guys have any events happening or anything like that, you will reach out to her so she can make the arrangements. So I know I have a limited time, so I tried to make sure I did everything within the time frame. So bear with me. Okay, election day. Primary election is Tuesday, May 17th, right? Now, primary elections in the state of Pennsylvania is a closed primary election. Oh, one more thing. I do have a slideshow. Is there any way if I could make a co-host that I could share it? Or
Yeah.
am I able to share it on my own?
You can share the screen right now.
Okay. Oh, yay. There it is. All right. So play from the start. Ta-da! Can you see that? Give me thumbs up. Yay. Thank you. All right. So we already introduced ourselves. All right. Important election information. And if you guys want a copy of this, I can also email you this as well. So election day, Tuesday, May 17th. The state of Pennsylvania is a closed primary election, meaning only registered Democrats and Republicans can vote in this election. The only exception is if there are questions on the ballot. There are not this time around, okay? So it's only Republicans and Democrats that can vote. If you guys are not sure, please call our office just to verify. That's one of the major problems that we have during primary elections. On election day, we get those phone calls yelling, saying, oh, I've always voted this way. And when we checked and see, they always voted in November. So obviously it doesn't matter in November. So if you're not sure, call the office. There has been a lot of talk about these district maps. This is actually holding up the state reps from circulating their petition. The district maps is still being litigated. So that we have not gotten a word on that. So right now, those that are running for state rep, they're on hold until all this mess is resolved. We're hoping it'll be soon, but we don't know, right? Litigation regarding Act 77. You guys probably heard that there's a lot of litigation right now about the mail-in ballots being unconstitutional, okay? All of that is still being litigated. So as of right now, we are still processing mail-in ballots, okay? Should something happen down the line, I'll be back to let you guys know the update. So, but as of right now, it's being litigated. So we're still processing them. If you all are doing a mail-in or an absentee application, what we're asking is that you make sure that you verify that you are the party that you want to be and that you verify your address. A lot of the stuff that we've been seeing is people doing their mail-in or absentee application and then they're doing a party change. So then we have to go back, reverse, delete, process, and just to make sure that you guys get the right stuff, make changes before you do the mail-in application. All right. If you're not sure, call the office. So right now, local Democrat and Republicans, local Democratic and Republicans committee members are circulating their petitions. The deadline for that is tomorrow. All right, and I want to share some poll worker news here. So we are actively recruiting people to serve as poll workers. When I had spoke with the lady from the league back in January, I think I told you guys about the poll worker recruitment day. I think it was a day before or a couple of days before. I don't know what you guys did in that short amount of time, but we got about 3 or 4 people that were in there because of you guys. So whatever you guys did, thank you so much. It's much appreciated. So we're still looking. It's gonna be a big election. So we're trying to get as many co-workers as we can. Election day is from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We are in need of Spanish-speaking bilingual interpreters. Previously, 96 of the 161 polling places were required by law to have an interpreter. The census actually changed that, and then that number actually rose. So now instead of 96, now we're at 146. So almost every single polling place needs an interpreter. So because of this uprise, we are actually hosting a Spanish interpreter recruitment day next month. It's on Tuesday, April 5th. It's going to be from 9 to 4. It's going to be here at the Lehigh County Government Center lobby. For those that can't come in person, there's going to be a Zoom link, which I can provide to you guys, that anybody can hop on Zoom. There will be a live person there on the other side, more than likely Alexandra. And that way they can talk about it, ask questions. And this day is not just for interpreters. This day is for anyone who wants to be a poll worker, but we're just making the focus on interpreters. Other exciting news, we actually teamed up with one of the high schools, Building 21. They were actually the recipients for the Governor's Civic Engagement Award. It was a couple of years in a row, meaning that they received the award for having a certain percentage of the students registered to vote. So they did win an award for that. So now we're teaming up with them to try to get the students to be poll workers. So I'm actually having a presentation with them on the 30th of this month, so we can do the active recruiting then. They're very excited, which makes me very excited. And the good thing is that a lot of them are bilingual. So we're excited about that. And we're kind of hoping that with that relationship with them, that will carry on to Alan, and that'll carry on to Dara. So we're trying to just spread the word and just, try to get the communities involved, especially the youth. Moving on. So I just have here the positions on the election board. They did raise the pay. So the pay did go up $30. So this is the positions, this is the overview, how much they get paid. And just so that you guys know, all of this money is tax exempt, meaning no taxes are taken out and you don't have to report this anywhere. Maybe you guys have heard that there's talk about that this money may be on debit cards, maybe on so. That is still a process that we're working on. I have been getting calls about that. So it's not official yet. We're still trying to work it out. So that's maybe in the works. So if you or anyone that you know are interested in being a poll worker, contact me, contact Alex. This is our email information, the office number. Again, the Spanish interpreter recruitment day is next month, and it's going to be here. Again, it'll also be on Zoom as well. And this is a flyer that you guys, like I said, we could email this to you guys. That way you could, blast it out, post it and whatnot. Those of you that know anyone that can be a Spanish speaking interpreter, there's Alex's information is there, her direct line is there. And we can also email you. This is the flyer for next month. So this has all the information on it, the date, the time, location, and also the Zoom link is down here as well. So I hope you guys would work your magic like you did last time. I don't know, whatever you did. So, and then hopefully, we're just trying to make sure that the polling places have enough workers so that way they're not overwhelmed on election day. Because I have a feeling we're gonna have a very heavy election this year. And that's all I have for you. Does anybody have any questions?
I can't see everyone. Oh, there you go, Kathy. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I'm trying. Oops, there I am. So I did sign up to, I came to your event at the county office to sign up for being a poll worker. When is that training going to be?
So very good question. So I have the judge of elections, I have that set. The interpreters, the inspectors and clerks, I have set dates. I just need to make sure that I finalize them. So as soon as I get those days finalized, the poll workers are gonna get them either via email or mail. So, but definitely it'll be starting next month.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Diane, I have a question. I see that the
Yes.
prices are what people are being paid has gone up, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Is the county funding all that? Or are you getting any support from the state?
There's some chatter. The money man is actually not in. Tim is not here. So he's my money guy. When I need money, I talk to, he handles all that. So that I can't answer too much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that that's one of the problems that the counties have to do all these different tasks, and they've been asking the state to help support those things. But it's nice to see a raise in the pay, and hopefully that's a lot of interpreters you have to get. So
I know.
we will try. We will work our magic. We'll spread it as far as we can. And it's so nice to see that you're willing to take students. That's a great thing. And hopefully if Building 21 works out, it'll spread throughout the rest of the school district.
Yeah, there's actually separate rules and guidelines for students, but it's we could have them, why not? So, but yeah, hopefully it's just, the start,
right.
And we're also trying to get the media involved. Hopefully they'll be there on the 30th, that they could do a story. Elections is not very attractive if it's not controversial. You know how it is, like the good stuff is never really advertised, but they are trying to get the media involved. So hoping.
Wonderful. I see Rochelle has a question.
Hi, Diane. How you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Good. So getting back to student poll workers, I was told by no one from Lehigh County, but a League of Women Voters in Union County, that her county elections director told her that none of the precincts in Union County want students, because that would mean all the adult poll workers would have to go get child abuse checks and the state police certification that you're not a child abuser. That didn't sound quite right to me. And I was curious if you knew anything about that.
That is a very good, thing. And I don't believe that's what the law has, because I actually took the student poll worker requirements, but I have not heard of that.
Yeah.
I could ask Tim and see, but I don't think that, because we've always had students work the election,
Sounded weird to me, but I figured I would come to the experts.
That's
what age?
I also wanted to say that not all our students are under 18. A lot of them are 18. So I haven't heard of anything. I did have, Tim gave me the outline of what the state requires, and none of it states that anyone has to get that background check. It's a day, you're in public,
that's probably
everyone's
their
together.
That's probably their preference.
For them.
The only thing is that the judge of elections, would be in charge of them. But yeah, that's a very interesting.
I'll email
statement,
Tim. I'll email Tim.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The fact that some of them are doing it.
I have a question. What age are the students? Are they, is there a minimum age?
17.
17.
17, yes.
Okay. Thank
17,
you.
yep. Yep. 17, if they're 17, then they have to have a permission from their parent and guardian, which we have all of that. So when I head down to, when I had my whole presentation down there at building 21, I'm gonna have, you know, the flyers, the permission slips. The school has to sign off on it. The parent has to sign off on it. They have to be in good standing with the school, so they can't be failing out or anything like that. So they have certain criteria that they got to meet. So.
Okay, well, that sounds like you had all your bases covered. You know, I'm sure if there was something you had to do, Tim would find it in the state policies.
Yeah.
There's so many other situations where you do need to do that when you're dealing with adolescents, but this sounds like it's one day that perhaps.
Yeah, we think that county just doesn't want to have students, and that's the excuse.
Or maybe they have other problems, or maybe they have other issues. You know,
Yeah,
I know that.
I don't know.
My judge of elections that I have, they're awesome. You know, a lot of you guys are co-workers. So yeah.
Right. Okay, does anyone else have a question? Barb Williams, you're muted.
Yeah,
There you go.
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that if you go into the school buildings to work with students, you have to have the background check.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it came up.
Now they're going outside, and like you said, the judge of elections will be responsible, and parents will have to sign off and so forth. So
yeah, sounds good. We will certainly do our part. You know, part of our voter education, we're just getting started, is to go out to some of the communities in the urban area, and that could be part of what we talk about. Poll workers. So we will do what we can to help you get that 196, which is a big job.
Oh, big number.
Yes. Yeah. And if you guys are doing any community-based events, let Alex know. Maybe we can hop on, you know what I mean? So so we're just trying to get the information out there, see what sticks. Alex just took this over in October of last year. So me and her are still finding, ground and trying to figure out how to reach out and whatnot. So yeah, if you have any events, let us know. And if we can make it happen, make it happen. So
we're going to keep you involved and keep you in the loop, because we're going to need you as well.
Yes.
So
as we
keep
us
forward,
involved.
We're going to, you two are very dynamic. We are really excited. I know those of us that sat in a meeting with you, we're so excited to hear all the ideas you have, how you want to get out in the community, how you want to get students involved. That really aligns with a lot of things that we're looking at too. So you definitely will be part of what we're doing. So unless anyone has any other questions, we don't want to hold them up. They're probably on their lunch hour.
Hey, question. One more thing. I know that you guys do your little pamphlets, how you mail them out and whatnot for League of Women Voters. Maybe we can do a little something and you could add that in there. I don't know. Do you do it every month, or is that what you guys do? Have your monthly pamphlets or whatever?
We have a newsletter that's on our website.
Newsletter
every other month. Okay. And we have pamphlets about joining the league. We can talk to you. We'll probably have to have another meeting or two with you, but we'll exchange information and we'll give you what we have and you give us what you have. And between the two of us, maybe we can get a lot more people out to vote and a lot more people working at the polls.
Yes.
So unless people have any more questions, I want to thank Alexandra for coming today, and Diane. They are a dynamic duo. They have lots of ideas, and they're good for Lehigh County. Really good.
Yes, and I will make sure that you guys get the flyers, so you could just shoot them wherever you want to shoot them.
Sounds good. We'll put them on our website. We'll put them on our Facebook. We'll put them on our Instagram, whatever.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us, guys.
Thank you so much for coming today, and we'll be in touch with you, I'm sure.
All right.
So
take care.
Again for coming. Bye, girls.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Yes. Yeah, those two are great. It's a lot of youth, a lot of excitement, a lot of motivation to do they're going to help us with some of the things we want to do as well. Speaking of other things, I want to get to any board members that have anything to say. I know Barb Conley, you had an announcement to make.
Yep. Thank you, Mary.
Sure.
Yeah, we were really lucky. We have been accepted as a participant in the Lehigh Valley Book Festival. We were supposed to do this 2 years ago, but COVID, made a lot of stuff go virtual. So this year it's going to be held on March 26th at the Bethlehem Area Public Library. You're probably all familiar with that in Bethlehem. And it is co-sponsored by the bookstore in Emmaus, Let's Play Bookstore, and the Bethlehem Library. So there's going to be authors and all kinds of civic organizations and all kinds of things going on. You can kind of check out the website for the Lehigh Valley Book Festival. They have a Facebook page. You can even go on Let's Play Books Bookstore, and they have information. But we will be there. The time is that the vendors are going to be there, and the organizations is actually from, let's see, I believe 11 to 4. We'll be setting up earlier, taking down after that. But for any member of the league who's interested in helping out, this is a really good opportunity to do that and to learn something about how we interact with the community. We'll have lots of information about voting. We'll take the poll worker information with us for sure. So if you're willing to help out for a short time, a longer time, it is going to be outside, but they said that, I just got this information on Saturday, that it will be in an area which is not enclosed, but covered. Okay. So we probably don't want to be there for 6 hours, which is understandable. But if you're interested in helping out for any amount of time, you can either go on the league email. Is it okay if I put my telephone number in the chat?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to put my telephone number in the chat, and you can just also call me and I can get back to you with, information. There it is. Okay, you can get back to me and let me know if you're available. I think it's going to be a great day. And even if you can't, I would encourage anybody to also support it, because this is a really great endeavor that they have. And they have all kinds of stuff for adults. They're going to have kid books, young adult books. So I think it's going to be a really good opportunity for us to participate into.
Okay. Does anyone else have any? Thanks, Barb. Yeah, we're trying to get members involved who haven't been able to do many things. So we're going to be throwing things your way, opportunities to get involved. Molly, I see you have your hand up.
Right, and talking about opportunities to get involved, the Barkers aren't, Charlie and Donna aren't here, but on this call, but they will be looking for people to deliver the government directory when it is finished, and also to deliver the voter's guide. So I just wanted to make that announcement for those of you. They did put a little blurb in the last newsletter that just came out, but don't forget that they will be this is a chance to just help out and deliver some of these to places that they will already have, chosen for you to go to. And the other thing, Mary, is, do you want to mention, we are going to have the annual meeting in May. We just, stay tuned. We just haven't finalized how we're going to do it yet, or what date. But the virtual coffee on the Saturday morning had worked well last year. We're considering maybe doing something like that again.
Thank you. I actually forgot to mention that. So I'm glad Molly's going to have to just be my right-hand person through this annual meeting, because this is a new task for me. But yeah, it's coming up. And as soon as we make some decisions, we'll let you know. Speaking of decisions, Terry, did you get my email about, if you can hang in there for 5 more minutes, I have some exciting news for us. Hold on.
The book club email?
Yes. Okay. All right. Hang in there. I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, hang on a sec. Let you share it.
Okay.
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Do you see it?
Nope.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. I didn't share my screen. Okay. I gotta go through each slide. It's only 3. Okay. All right. Since I just took away the magic here. Okay, I've got to share my screen. All right. No. Well, you know what? Hold on. I have to go back to the Zoom. Okay. All right, now I have to share my screen. Sorry, guys. Okay, all right, here we are. What I wanted to introduce to you today is a new thing we've come up with. And it is a new idea. The board spoke about this. We had a few of us had a meeting, and we're going to start the League of Women Voters Book Club. Okay, the topic for a while will be diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you might be wondering, what is diversity, equity, and inclusion? I'm going to give you the really quick version of it. Diversity are facts. The facts meaning how many different ways are we different from one another? Age, sex, religion, faith, ethnicity, color, socioeconomic status, you get the idea. The next thing is, what do we do with that information that we have? When we look at ourselves and we see equity, that's a choice we make. Do we include all of those that are different from us in so many different ways? And the final thing is, inclusion is when you actually make decisions based on that. If you just recognize that we're all different and you don't do anything else, that's giving lip service to it. So what the League at the national level and the state level, and Molly is on the state committee for this, and we'll be doing something later in the summer. But basically what we wanted to do, we can look at DEI. We've adopted a DEI policy in our League. Many companies do this, business organizations, community organizations. So we have adopted a DEI policy with the League. And basically what it works in 2 different ways. Like, how do we look at ourselves as a League? Do we reflect what the community looks like? Are we open to those who are different from ourselves? And we can do it within and we can do it without. Like some of the voter activities we're going to do, we want to try to cover youth. We want to try to cover our senior citizens, and we want to try to cover the underserved communities in the urban area. So we are doing DEI things. Let me give you a really quick, easy example. I would say about a year ago, I started calling some of the members, some of the older members who had dropped out of coming to our hot topic luncheons. And what they told me was, I don't want to do the steps anymore. You know, this is too hard. Other members did complain, like, I can't come, I'm having a surgery, I can't do the steps. So what we did, we wanted to look at what we could do to equalize the fact that everyone could attend, which is with the equity. We made a choice. We went around and we looked for places. And when we came up with the paddock, that was the decision we made. So that right there is a very small picture of what actually, you know, applying a DEI policy would be like. So we want to do that internally, and we want to do it externally in some of the activities we're doing. So we try to think of something we could do that was pretty painless, that could be fun, that could bring our League together. So what we came up with was a book club. And this is the first book that we're suggesting. It's called I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World for Whiteness. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, except that it was written by Austin Channing Brown, and you can find out about the author yourself. But if one question you might have is, when would we start this? We would start this as soon as we had 4 members who are interested. And what does it involve? It just involves, let's say, starting off with 4 people who would read the book. One person would kind of be the director or the moderator, come up with a few questions, send them out to the other members. get together, and this is a great opportunity with COVID dying down. It's a great opportunity to get together in someone's home, at Wegmans, at Panera, talk about the book, and then let us know what you've learned so that we can learn something. Put a blurb in the Voter about it. And then what would be the next book? That would be completely up to the book club. We have a list of resources from the league that are just amazing. And if someone else has a book that discusses diversity, it could be something about women's rights, it could be something about elder care, it could be something about our minorities in our country or in our cities. So this is the first book because it's not a big book. It's been a New York Times bestseller. I looked at it. I actually bought it. It looks pretty interesting. So that's the spiel. That's the preview. So I want you to think about it. And if there's anyone who's interested in being part of the book club, let me know, or let anyone on the board know, and you can start it as soon as we have 4 people. The other thing that's nice is that we may be getting some grant money. I would say we are, and that could cover if you are struggling with, buying a book. We could cover the cost of getting that book. You could read it on Kindle. You could do it on Audible, which is just listening to it. It doesn't matter. The rules that are made up it's determined by the club itself. We just need someone who say, hey, I'll run that for you. And you could even take turns running it. So, that's basically it. That's our presentation. You can find out more about it. But right now I want to see if anyone has any questions. I try to find my cursor so I can stop sharing. It got lost somewhere. Terry, can you turn it off?
I can.
Okay, good, because I can't find my cursor. It's not showing up. Okay. All right, there it goes. All right. Okay, I don't want to hold you much longer, but anybody have any questions? Anybody seem interested in getting involved in this? I see we lost some people. Barb, Pat, oh, great. Yeah, you have a question, Pat?
Yeah, I'm not interested in running anything at all because
Okay.
I should tell you, and also Barb needs to know, Barb Williams, we are moving to Kirkland Village, and our moving date is now supposed to be the 1st of June. And there may be a telephone problem over there that it's a little complicated. I'll talk to Barb about the telephone.
Okay.
Which we've talked about changing anyway. And I think the idea of a book club is amazing. That's terrific. So
yeah, I hope we can get, we're really interested in getting members involved who maybe haven't been doing some things lately, just to keep in touch with everyone and, build some relationships, learn about diversity. It's not too painful. So hopefully we'll get some interest. We'll put more information in an email and the voter, but I just wanted to give you a preview, talk to other members and see what we can do to get people involved. So any questions before we end? No? Okay, well, on that note, I'm going to let you go. This was a long one, but we got a lot of stuff in today. We learned about bees. We learned about what's and other insects. Terry, thank Leah again. That was very informative. It really was. I feel guilty now that I don't have all native plants. But yeah, I'll work on it. And the girls from the county they were just so excited to be able to speak to us. They're cute. And of course, we really want to get this book club rolling. So that was just a preview. And with that, unless you have any comments or questions, it's time to go have lunch. So thanks again. It was really great seeing everyone. And we'll see you next month, hopefully in person.
if you want to buy a house, we have one.
Okay, we'll let people know.
Lots of
That
books.
sounds like a lot of work. That sounds like a lot of work between now and the 1st of June.
We have lived here for almost 53 years. So
wow.
Yeah.
Your house is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
It's a lovely house. It's full of paper.
Well, I'm sure you'll do fine, but that sounds like a new adventure for you. So, we really wish you a lot of luck.
But
Exactly where is Kirkland Village?
we'll always belong to the Lehigh County League.
Oh, good. Is Kirkland Village in Northampton County?
Yes,
Or-
it is. And by the way, I got a phone call a while ago, and I gave the woman your number, Barb Connolly.
Yeah, I did speak with her. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
Oh, great. And I know Barb Williams will be talking to you about the phone, so.
But she just wished she had us in Northampton County, this lady who called.
Yeah.
I know. What can we do? We can only do so much. We're trying. I mean, we keep asking people, but I don't know. Okay.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I'm going to let everyone go. Pat, keep us up to date on what's happening. Let us know how you're doing as far as your move.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do want to read the book. I do want to do that.
Oh, great. So you don't want to run it. You just want to be part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
That sounds great. Not one.
We'll take turns, I assume. So after we get moved, I'll take a turn, but I will read it soon.
Great. That's wonderful. That makes me so happy. I know the other people that we were discussing, and I know Molly was excited because it might bring some of what we used to do in the past, people getting together and meeting and discussing it. I love that part of it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, everyone have a good afternoon. I've got to go over to the car dealer and get a leaking tire fixed. So I'm going to sign off, and everyone have a good month. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.